Hey, everybody. This episode is brought to you by our proud title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena, the next generation of off-ice hockey training for players and goalies. Look, we know how much you invest in your children's hockey development, the early mornings, the travel, and let's not forget the expenses of training for hockey camps, private ice time, the general expenses of the season. It's a lot. But wouldn't it be great to bring that on-ice practice experience home that's fun, fits into your schedule, and that's affordable? If you said yes, which I'm sure you did, you've got to check out NHL Sense Arena. It's a top tier virtual reality training game that brings the on ice practice experience home so you can practice anytime and anywhere, literally. You can transform any part of your home into a virtual ice rink where you're getting unlimited access to over 100 drills, training plans from top coaches and players, weekly drill challenges, and more that focus on improving hockey sense and physical cognitive skills, starting at just $33 per month. That is a lot cheaper than an hour of ice time. The physical side of hockey gets a lot of attention, but we don't focus enough on the mental side of it. It's something we talk about on this show all the time. NHL Sense Arena provides an immersive solution for players to sharpen those skills when ice time is limited or not affordable and they want to get those extra reps in. So, for our listeners, NHL Sense Arena is offering an exclusive $50 off their annual plan. All you got to do is head over to their website, hockey.sensearena.com. Again, hockey.sensearena.com, and use our code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll level up your off-ice training by using NHL Sense Arena. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting us and NHL Sense Arena. Enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, is joined by always my best friends in the world, Mike Bonelli and Christie Casciano Burns. And guys, listen, it's early in the year when we're recording this, and the weirdness has started on all of the teams that I am part of. Parents asking questions, looking around, who's going where, what team am I going to make? This is the team I want to make next year. Are we going to be on the same team next year? Lee, will you coach that team? What are we going to do? It's the madness of the end of the season. So we're not going to be talking about evaluations directly today, but we are going to talk about that journey, that road to evaluations where, let's just say it frankly, things get kind of weird at this point of the season, and you have to have these conversations. So at the end of this episode, my goal, Mike, Christie, for the parents, for the people listening, is to give you some perspective on what's happening, especially if you're new to the sport. But more importantly, maybe calm you down, or maybe give you some something to hold on to here as we approach that. So, Christie, I'm going to start with you because you've actually been through this more than Mike and I.
Yes.
With both of your kids having graduated through hockey, how did you keep your head on during all this?
Yes, March Madness.
That's what I should have called. That's the episode title right there.
It's March Madness. And parents get crazy. You're not even done with the season yet. You haven't even done your final tournaments, and parents are already so worried about the next season. And it's okay to start exploring, put the feelers out there. If for some reason you think your kid needs to move, has outgrown the team, you're not happy, maybe it wasn't a good season for your family. Maybe it was too intense. Maybe it wasn't intense enough. And you need to make that jump. What I always did, and we didn't jump around a lot, but there was one point where we had to because Sophia needed to go on, we wanted her on girls' team to start playing with just all girls and not boys. So what I did, and it was right around the end of the season, is I just asked other parents, started doing research with parents, and even called the organization and found out, what's it like here? How welcoming are you with girls? And, do girls get treated just as equally as the boys? What is your ice time like? And then I even, called the coaches and got a feel for them, have a good conversation with them, have a one-on-one with them. Those in-person, face-to-face meetings, you can really get a sense of what kind of a coach you're dealing with. So it's okay to start exploring that, but don't forget, you you still have to finish the season too. Don't give up on your teams. And there's a lot of work to do toward the end of the season. And you start getting a little tired. You start, feeling a little burned out. You can't wait for your kids to pick up the lacrosse stick. I get that. But in the home stretch, you really need to give 100% too. So don't forget that.
100% agree. My message to my own children this time of year and the kids that I coach, I mean, I don't have as much control over them as their parents, is what you just said, Christy. Like, look, we got to finish this season first, and I want your focus to be here, especially for the athlete. Okay. Right. I do understand, and Mike, I'm going to turn to you here. I do understand that evaluations are usually tagged right to the end of the season. So you're not crazy for thinking about it. All right. I do understand that people have to make plans. I think Christy just gave some great advice of do your research. Talk to people. But Mike, we always talk about this too, that the grass is always greener on the other side. And that if you're not careful, you can start to commiserate a bit and find everything wrong with your organization. I do want to say, look, there are absolutely appropriate times to leave one organization and go to another. There are appropriate times to leave a tier 2 program and go to a tier 1 program, especially if you're on the East Coast. But you really gotta come to it with a sane mentality. And this type of year can make you insane. So, Mike, again, you're right in the thick of it as a coach. Christy gave a great job of the parent point of view, especially in girls hockey. Mike, tell me the coaching point of view, because I'm sure you get so many gripes around this time of year. How do you walk through that experience?
Yeah, and we just hear that the grass is not always green on the other side. It could be green on our side. You just have to water it and nurture it and feed it, and you don't need to go somewhere else when you have good grass right there in front of you. You just have to know how to. If you want to trample on it and rip it up and, get the dog out there all the time, then yeah, it's not going to be in great shape.
This is Monday morning metaphor, Mike, and I love it.
And again, it's only from, and let's clear the air too. These are all issues I truly believe aren't parental issues. These are because our organizations just can't get our act together, and we're manipulating, and we've ruined the end of seasons for kids when you start having tryouts and evaluations and ID skates and pre-ID skates for, youth hockey in January and February.
I agree.
And it's so hard. I mean, listen, I'll give a lot of parents that have 15 and 16-year-olds the benefit of the doubt that they've been through the treadmill of this hockey world and they're jaded a little bit and they have to look. But my gosh, if you're a parent of a 6th, 7th, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. I mean, these are things you should be able to end your season, never thinking about where you're going next,
right?
Except ending the season. You should, and I know you have to,
yeah.
But I think it's the coaches, So here's my recommendation from a coaching standpoint: lay out if you're going to have a team if you're going to coach the same group of kids. Say you're a parent coach, right? And you're coaching. For our intensive purposes here, squirt minor, which are first year squirts,
right?
And you're going to coach the second year squirts. Say your son or daughter is one of the better players, or whatever. You're committed to coaching next year. You haven't been run out of town yet. The organization wants you to coach again. Then start laying the groundwork that you don't want to have tryouts. You don't need to have tryouts. You know what kids you have, and personally, I would be like, I want all of you to return,
right?
Except you, not you, but everyone else, I want to cater to my team. We don't need tryouts. And if you have an organization that says, oh, we need tryouts so that that's a fundraiser for us. That's a way for us to raise funds. So you know what? Go to the parents, be completely transparent and say, this tryout needs to earn the organization $800. You have to pay a fee, but you're guaranteed to be on my team. I like you. You like me. Why go through the process of trying out for 17 different programs? Save all your money, save your time, just play for the coach you like. Again, this is 6, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Yeah. Now, when you start getting up a level and what we call this craziness starts to happen, it only becomes crazy because you, dad and mom, create the craziness because you don't need to move. You need to find a way. Showcases and ID camps don't mean anything before puberty. So just find a place that you like, get on the ice, develop your talents, be with kids you like. And again, it's easy to say, and we'll have very few people listen, but it will It will happen. It'll just come about if your son or daughter loves being on. That's the number one thing. Find the ability to move them on to the next role here that they love. They want to be there. And I think, you got to remember the stress that we put these kids under from coaches to say, you must be at my tryout in April. But coach, I'm an unbelievable lacrosse player. I'm in the baseball Little League World Series. I don't care about that. You need to be at my tryouts.
Yeah.
You have to participate. And I can't tell you during tryout season, how many kids that you literally see run into the building and like their cleats. Right. And,
every year
and jump into their ice. And then the coach says, he really didn't look like he was, into it today. Like he was tired. I go, yeah, of course he's tired. Yeah. He just played 2 hours of lacrosse. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of knowing, Christie said it earlier, do your research, look at the landscape. The younger your kid is, the less you got to look.
Right.
And the more you should be embracing where you're at and making where you're at better. And if you fall into the trap that, everybody's at the secret skills camp that you're not at, and you're going to start running after that, it's a no-win situation.
Do you even want to play for that team? Like that's the other thing too. And this is something I tell parents, like if you're in that type of a stress environment, and I want to be clear to everybody listening, we are talking kind of 12U and down at the moment. We will address kind of the 16, 18U at the end of the episode, because I actually do think that there's a recipe for that too. But if you're in those first half of the youth levels and a coach is already creating a stressful environment, you really got to ask yourself if you want your kid to be in that environment. Right. Now I'll give my organization a little bit of credit right now, because they scheduled one of the evals for both of my kids' teams is during spring break. All right. And my family's not going to be around during spring break. And they went out of their way to say, listen, we completely understand that some of you will be on vacation. It is, you have to make one of the evaluations, and they put the other ones the week after, but we understand if you're not around this week, and no, it will not be held against anybody. I just appreciated that they said that, because as you can imagine, when those dates came out, the first thing, I'm not available. What's that going to do to my kid? Oh my God. And, so I appreciate that they put that forward, but at the same time, Mike, you said it too. I can't stand that we have evals at the end of the season, but I also understand, like, what are the organizations supposed to do? Because if you don't do it, you're going to lose all your players now at this point.
That's not true. So let's go back in the Wayback Machine. Caitlin can cue it up, put their episode out there we've had before. You do not have. You have seen the kids for 20. Lee, do you not know every single kid on your team?
I know them all. Yeah,
very distinctly. And even if you weren't a good coach, even if you weren't a professional coach or an evaluator, you know your kids. Your organization knows your kids. 25 weeks. 25 weeks was your evaluation.
No, it's half
so if you're in an organization right now and you can't, as a parent, say, you've seen my kid for 25 weeks, you're telling me I can't go to Costa del Vista or whatever the hell, I can't go. I can't go away for a week and have to worry about my kid not playing on his team because you don't know where
let me give a little context, Mike, because I do agree with you on this. What I'm saying is that other organizations play against other organizations by saying, well, if you don't get to our eval, there's no way you're going to make our team. And I'm talking about when people are maybe thinking about switching teams, not to mention the contracts, which I think are ridiculous, that if you try out for us, you have to play for us, which again, I understand it from a tactical level. I don't agree with it in any way. I think that that's horrible to put that on a 10-year-old that you said you're coming, not to mention it's all BS anyway, because if the kid's good enough, they'll take him on any team, right? No one's going to hold you to that contract.
We've created this financial
It's horrible,
need, right? We created the need to say, you're going to sign up for my kid or my program. You are obligated if you make the team. And then you have to read the fine print. Well, it doesn't mean if you made the A team. It means if we put you on any team in the organization, you need to say, well, I didn't sign up to play on the C team. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. That's the team you sign up for, so you lose your deposit.
It's a race to the bottom for me, right? Mike, and this is the point you just made, and Christy, I'd love to jump into your experience. If your organization is great, people will want to be there. I feel like everyone's looking at each other. I always use this metaphor of like you're a skyscraper, and you're looking at the other skyscraper to see who's going to be the tallest or who's coming up to be next to you. When if you just look up and get bigger and taller than everybody else, everybody will want to come to your organization. Right. So I don't like the race to the bottom. You have to come here. You have to play for this team. I want to say this again, though, because we have organizers that listen. I also understand why we do that. because people can make brash decisions when there's a lot of pressure. And if you don't secure them, quote unquote, you're going to lose a lot of players. That's the reality of it. Should it be that way? I don't believe so. But I just think if you have a fantastic organization, people will want to be there, right? They won't want to leave. And I think every organization has the ability to do that, right? And some of it's through creating standards. But Christie, let me jump back to you real quick, because again, you had kids played on a lot of different teams.
Yeah,
you found ones that you're like, oh, we're staying here no matter what.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we were always very involved with whatever team we were on. We were really a part of the team. So
Right.
if they needed volunteers, if they needed, what the parents were fantastic. So we were very fortunate to have a lot of dedicated parents who worked to make it a great experience all around. For the coaches, we would go ahead and hey, parents, we need you to set this up for it. We would all step up and do it. And that's what made us want to stay, is
Right.
because that sense of community.
Love it.
And no one really, it didn't feel competitive off the stands. On the ice, the kids were competitive, sometimes with each other, of course, and with other teams, but we didn't feel like we were competitive
Right.
off the in the stands, which really makes a difference. There was one team that I had some issues with, and but you learn to work around it and you deal with it. The other thing about evaluations, my kids never really mind. Of course they got nervous the day before,
Naturally,
but
yeah.
I always love the way it really kind of jacked them up. You know what I mean? And I was impressed. Sometimes I would, watch way the bleachers just to see how they would do. And it was really kind of impressive how they wanted to step up and really do their best. And that actually helped Sophia later on as she got into the more competitive stages of hockey. She had that switch that she could turn on when it was really important to be seen, especially by college coaches when they were evaluating her. So, an early age evaluations could actually be a good thing for the kids.
I agree.
With the right perspective.
And I agree. I mean, I think that's where that's the argument I'll always get, right? Is we just want to test the metal against the best. Like, I want my kid to go out there. Well, I don't care if they make it or not, and which is not true. But it's just I want to see really where they fit in. So my charge to some of these organizations and somebody in some governing body of hockey that runs the youth hockey in the United States should implement some type of data source that says, if you're a AAA elite organization and you're having open tryouts, tell me how many kids that come to that tryout matriculate to your team. Honestly, tell me if you have 15 kids on your 15U team and you have a tryout with 90 kids on the ice, how many of those kids make the team? And it's so small a number. It's literally like when statistically, when you see it over and over and over again, you're going to find that number is maybe one kid, and that kid probably knew that they were probably going to make that program anyway because of all the back channel stuff that goes on.
Absolutely. Here's the other thing too, Mike, is that I think there's nothing wrong with being honest about that with the kids and making sure that they understand that you might not make this team. I think that's okay. Here's the other thing too, guys, is that, when I think about evaluations as a whole, I think about how my kid approaches the evaluation. This is going to be some active advice for you guys listening at home. The messaging you give your children is super important, right? So number one, if you're nervous, Christie brought this up. I always tell my kid, that's okay. That's normal, because if you're nervous, it means you care. Right. And I think that's something that kids need to recognize. Sometimes kids don't recognize why they're nervous. Yeah. And it eventually turns into, I'm nervous, I might not make the team. Yeah. And then that just turns into fear. And I think it's important, Mike, to your point, and Christie, to your point, you might not make the team. Right. And that's okay. Right. Because what matters, and parents, this is what I really think we should be telling our kids. And I'm not telling you not to tell them to be aggressive or not to work hard or not to try and make the team. But when I talk to my children and the kids that I coach, I just want you to leave knowing you did the best you possibly could at this tryout or this evaluation. That is important to me. All right. It doesn't guarantee anything, just like life. but you're going to be doing these evaluations for 10, 15 years, maybe more, right? And they're going to get harder and harder and harder. And I want you to understand how to compartmentalize that nervousness, that fear, what you're feeling right now. It's okay to feel something, but I need you to know, son, daughter, friend, whatever, if you just do everything you can, you have to live with that. And parents, remember, you're going to be nervous too. It's just a natural response, but it feeds each other. If your kid's nervous and you're nervous, it's going to feed and grow into this really big ball of nervous energy. So it's kind of, to me, this is my opinion. I guess nobody has to agree with me on this, but I try and keep it as cool as I possibly can for them, because I don't want to put it on them that, hey, I'm nervous, you might not make the team. And to be fair, at this point in my journey, I'm pretty calm at evals, because my belief is that, wherever my son or daughter is placed, whether I agree with it or not, we have to make the best of that. Right. At this point of their journey, I want to reiterate, my kid's going to be a second-year squirt and a second-year mite. It is not 18U. I mean, I understand it's a different situation, or 16U. But yeah, listen, I just want you to do the absolute best you can. We have to leave this eval. You need to be in the car and look at me and say, I did everything I could to the best of my ability, whether you make mistakes or not.
Yeah, and I think that's a real key point too, is that when you are coming to these evaluations and you set your, if you're going to put your kids through the evaluation gauntlet, it's fine. I mean, I actually don't mind that, if you want to test the metal against metal, right? But every time you don't make a team, can't be because it was political and because the coach didn't see you, and that, this is ridiculous.
Or talent-based, right? It's not just about talent. I think people forget that, right? You could be the best player out there, but,
but didn't you see my son? He scored 4 goals on evaluation. Yeah, he did, but he was on the ice for 7 against. So I know you only saw the 4 goals for, but you didn't see the fact that he never came over the red line. So I think it's always like, I think as a parent, it's so important that you just, when you set those expectations, you set them to where when you don't make it, you don't make it for whatever reason. It doesn't matter, because and there's absolutely could be political.
I got a story for both of you. I got a story for both of you. Christy, you love this too. I don't talk about this often, but just to prove that point, going all the way to the highest levels, Mike. All right. I had a professional tryout, and I scored 5 points in 2 games against other professional players. And I remember thinking, this was the tryout of my life. Like, I did everything I needed to do. I took care of everybody. And I remember I sat down with the coaches, and they said to me, keeping in mind, this is 20 years ago. Well, you didn't get any fights. And I wasn't actively even avoiding fights. I was ready to fight if I needed to fight. Again, different time of the game. And this league I was trying out for, probably many of you can guess what it was at that time. But they said, you didn't get any fights. We didn't see that. Right. And look, there was no kind of ill will. I mean, I was a professional about it, but I didn't get selected for that team because I didn't get in a fight.
Wow.
Right. And it just goes to show you that maybe to be fair, like, and again, this is all retrospective, maybe I should have asked them before the tryout, hey, what are you looking for?
Exactly.
I just went in there like, if I score 1,000,000 points, they're going to have to take me. Right. And that's a professional team. Right. Now, my logic dictates maybe that wasn't the best call for the coaching staff, right? I think I had a pretty good tryout, but it just goes, that's not what they were looking for. And that's what they didn't need another person like that, right? That could score points. They needed someone that could put some fists up. Again, different time period of the game. I want to reiterate that. Parents, do not tell your children to fight. This is a disclaimer. Never should you do that at a tryout. But Mike, I just wanted to share that because it does support what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's really just the point of you don't. And again, this comes back to the organization and the coach, maybe, but we don't list out like during the open tryouts that we're looking to fill these 5 different types of players. Like we don't do that, right? So, and maybe we should say, hey, this is an open, like in football, right? Oh, we have an open tryout just for kickers. I don't care if you're the best quarterback in the world, doesn't matter. I just want a kicker, and I think, and that's sometimes you're like, I just need a defenseman. And that's all I really need for this team because I love this team and I want to keep this team. But at the same time, don't invite 120 kids. If you know you're only going to take 2 kids, that's an organizational piece. And, and those organizations get, it's funny when they get exposed, year after year after year, and the same parents say, oh, my God, they always did this. I go, yeah, but you always go to the tryout. So, we've talked about this a million times, right? Buyer beware, do your research. Don't complain after the fact when you knew it was going to happen.
Right.
And, and who are the happiest people? The only people that are happy after those tryouts are the people that made the team. And, and no matter how good
It's
you
life.
are, what you
That's
are.
just a metaphor for life, though, right?
Right.
Right. But you could avoid a lot of that preemptively
I agree.
by not going to these evaluations when you know your kid's not going to make the team. Like if you're doing it for some ego piece, like really sit and talk to your son and daughter and be like, do you like the team you're on? You're probably going to make this team and you're going to be able to play no problem. Or is your kid going, Dad, I'm so much better in this group. I want to try against those guys. I know I could make it. Okay, well, listen, you're the one that needs to want to do that. So if you want to do that, let's prepare by going over these points.
Right.
That if you don't make it, how do you react to that?
Well, prepare, right? That's the whole purpose of the episode, is to be prepared.
And then me as a coach says, well, I already asked you to come to my team. If you don't want to come play for me, like this, and this what happens all the time, and it's so sad, right? A player A wants to be, the coach wants them on their team. Player A's parent and kid decide, well, you're not really the team I want to be on, so I'm going to go try out over here. They don't make that team. The coach doesn't want them back on this team, and they go to another program, whether it's a lower level, higher level, it doesn't matter. Now you've just displayed, and everyone's doing it. So now you have like 7 or 8 kids all doing this little dance around, I wanted to play up. I was told I couldn't. Screw the coach. They don't know what they're doing. I'm leaving now because I got to save face because I can't go back to the person who originally asked me to play for them.
Right.
And it's just like this vicious cycle of, like I laugh in the spring, when you see kids and they're looking for a roll of tape in their bag and they pull out jersey A, jersey B, tryout jersey A, tryout jersey B, different color socks. And I'm like, my God, like how many places have you been? And it's a red flag. And when you, and we're gonna get to this, I get right. Well, maybe we could do it now, but when you get to 15, 16, 17-year-olds, those red flags are bright. They are like, this kid has been in 7 organizations in 7 years.
Right.
Sheesh, I don't know if the kid's gonna last till November with me.
Yeah, tell them about the parents.
Right. Yeah. And then you are looking. There's no doubt about it. You're looking at the parents. There's zero doubt that when you're doing evaluations, you're not going, I love this kid and I think he's okay, but there's like 7 of those kids and 6 of the parents are much, much better. And they're gonna let that kid play for me. And I think that's a huge piece of this, because in the top of the pyramid, all the kids are good. They're all good. And now it's a matter of who's going to give me the biggest headache.
Right.
And most of the time, you're going to go with the kid that's not going to give you a headache at all.
Yeah. And the parents.
Yeah. That happens all the time. I've seen that. I've heard that from coaches.
Right.
If a kid's on the bubble and you could go either way, well, geez, this kid's got a better attitude, so we're going to go with that.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's rare that the skill level is that much more. And Mike, again, we have a couple minutes left. Look, I'm going to go over some quick thoughts / tips that I think all parents should be bringing, and kids, to their tryouts, right? And you can apply these across the board. Mike, you brought up kind of that above 15. Look, there's a lot of politics when you get above 15, whether you want them to be there or not. That's the truth. This is my belief. At that age, it's as much, if not more, about your kid's drive for the sport than what team they're on. I'm not saying that making a AAA Tier 1 team is not of value if you want to play in college or going to a really good prep school team. I can't deny that there are opportunities for those kids. But I can also tell you, and from personal experience, that if your kid is not out in the driveway or out at the gym and untold, unprompted, working on their game all the time at that point, which is okay. I got to mention it's okay if they're not doing that, if they have other interests. You really need to pay attention to that, because I have seen walk-ons go to the NHL. I have seen really talented players burn out. All right. If the love and the passion are not there, and there's plenty of distractions at 15, 16, 17, or 18, you individually as families, you have to look at that and make decisions. And as a parent, you can advise your kid and say, look, if you really want this, you'll practice without me telling you anything. Okay. The message should not be, you should practice. This kid's practicing all the time. Don't do that to your kid. All right. If they want it, they will do it. And you can guide them, but you can't make them do it without massive resentment. So that is my tip. Again, above 15, it's as much you, if not more of you, than the team you're on. All right. And that kind of segues into this point that I want to make. Look, I'll be very real with all of the parents out there. Most of the time, 80%, if not more, of the team is already picked. All right. We know that. It's just natural progression of development. You kind of know what kids are going to fall on what team. That's not crooked. It's not politics. That's just natural. You kind of know who's going to be where. And that means that, yeah, there's some bubble positions on any team. People can impress. People can change things. I've seen it. It's happened to me. It's happened to my kids. All right. The point is, you never really know where you're going to end up. So don't go into an evaluation assuming 100% you're going to be on the team, even if the coach told you your kid's going to be the captain next year. Do not assume anything. Your kid still needs to go there and give 100% at that evaluation, especially if they're being promised something like that, which should never happen, by the way. The other thing is this, and this is kind of my big point on Action News tonight. Okay, Christy, that was for you. All right. It has to be more about the development than the letters behind the team. We talk about this every episode, it seems. I want my kid. This is my goal as a hockey parent, genuinely. I don't care right now what team they're on. If it has a great coach and a great ability for them to develop as leaders, as players, as skaters, as goalies, as people, as long as that is there, I am a satisfied parent at this point of my life. My kids are 10 and 7. Keeping this in perspective, it is different when you're older. I want them to develop. So if they make the same team, if they make a higher team, even if they make a lower team, and the chance is there for them to develop as hockey players, that is what my goal is. And I'm going to say it again, to not be hypocritical. It's not guaranteed, right? Some of this is on me as a parent to help them evolve, to help them grow. Okay, we didn't make the team we're going to make. You don't like the coach. You don't like your teammates. Let's not run away first. That shouldn't be my first inclination. What can we do as a family to survive this, to work on it, to be great at it? Not every season's going to be wonderful. I don't know how else to say that. You're going to have bad years, all right? But the kid who understands how to navigate that, infinitely more prepared for life, number one, will be a better kid to be coached. Coachability is a major thing for us when we pick teams, all right? You'll be infinitely better to be coached, more coachable, and you're going to be able to deal with adversity. So get this, when you get to a championship situation or a tryout situation, you have felt that feeling before, or have a motivation of, I don't want to make a bad team. I want to show these people I can be great. It's all learning on this kind of 10 to 12-year journey you get in youth hockey. So again, I put myself on a pedestal there. I'm sorry. I will throw it back to you two. I had these notes.
And also, there may be families who come into your organization from other organizations looking for that greener pasture,
right?
And be welcoming to them and help them navigate. Because it's, that's the thing too, is, we took in families who had bad experiences from other organizations, and you talk to them. Well, what was it about that organization? Well, we didn't really like the way they treat. My kid sat on the bench all the time. My kid is 6 years old, shouldn't be sitting on the bench the whole time. The coach only played the
Right.
top players, and it's good to find out why they left, and then as a group say, well, how can we make it better for this family? Let's work together and figure
once
this
you're
out.
here,
So,
you're with us, right?
yeah,
Christy,
you're
you
with
said it
us.
perfectly. It's the
Embrace
community.
them. Welcome them, and because that's really important too. Don't ice them out. Oh,
Right.
they're from that organization. What are they doing here?
It takes a village, right?
It really does.
You said that word community before. It's on the parents and the
Yeah.
families. That's part of it. You got to make the community. If you're standoffish, like I don't want to get to know anybody because we might not be here next year. What are you creating?
Right. Yeah. So that's important too. So if you see families coming in from outside because they were unhappy, and I've seen some parents say, wow, they're carpetbaggers. They're going from one organization to another.
Right.
Well, they're with us now.
Yeah.
They're our team.
Now they're with you.
Let's make this work. Yeah.
Mike, any final words?
No, I would agree with that. Like once the move's made and the person's there, then you got to build a program and you got to build a team. I mean, you can't go through all the years saying, I can't believe this kid's here and this is ridiculous. I hate everybody here. So, I mean, it's just a matter of, once that, greener pasture has been met, in your mind, then embrace the group that you have and then try to make that group better. And I think that's easier said than done. There's no doubt about it. It's so hard because there's so many moving parts to all this stuff. and I think, you get, and this time of year too, it's like, imagine the emotions. I mean, it's like, I know you can't take the 24-hour rule sometimes at the end of the last 2 weeks of the season, but sit back and say, is it really that bad? Or was it just this last week? Like, was it just that last shift that you're leaving? Or was it really, really good? Like, if you were having, I say this to parents as a hockey director all the time, like, oh, well, this happened and that happened and this happened. I go, but if all this happened back in September, why wouldn't you have told me about this? Like, you waited until now to unleash your frustration. I could have actually done something in September. Like, I can't do anything now. So, if you're pent up and everything was going great until the last 2 weeks of the season, and there's like little nuances of the, because again, it happens all the time. This time of year is not every single kid on the team sick. Every kid's sick. So, who's there? Who's not there? Did we win a game because we only had 8 players? Did this player not show up? Did this player have other events going on? Just sit back and say, was it really 6 months of horrendousness, or was it a week?
Yeah, misery loves company.
And then reset, and then look and say, no, you know what? It's not so bad. And like to Christie's point, you're going to go into a rink and you're going to hear from other parents, and you're like, "Oh man, my season's actually pretty good."
Mike, make sure you ask the kids too, because you might think it was a horrible year, but the kid, these are his friends or her friends.
Oh, it's always good to ask your children too. Sometimes, absolutely.
Yeah, people can forget that it was a horrible season. You guys didn't win a game.
They don't know what they want.
You guys didn't win a game, but I love this team. I love playing with these guys. Like,
the best is you'll get. We didn't.
Yeah. No, we
Exactly.
did, right? We won once in a while. Well,
we
look,
did. Yeah.
This has been a really good one. I to everyone listening to this show, we know our audience pretty well. All right. If you're listening to this show, this really is, I think, our parting advice. Look, you're doing great. You're doing a great job as a hockey parent. I've said this before. You're not crazy. The hockey world is crazy. Okay. There's a big difference there. And I want you're doing great. Remember the episode, it's one of our most popular episodes ever, about the 3 things to say to your kids, right? Hey, I love watching you play. Make sure you say these things before evals, right? I love watching you play. You are the most important thing in the world to me, no matter what happens. I don't care what team you make. I'm going to love you no matter what afterwards. These are really important messages to give your kids. And then the third one, which goes all over the place, is do the best you can. Just leave the eval being able to look me in the eye and saying that was the best effort I could give. If you give those kids those messages, you're in a good place with them. And I think that goes for all age levels. All right. If you're the parent that's going in, I don't think they listen to this show, but if you put in a tremendous amount of stress on your kid, you got to make this team, you got to hit this kid, you are really setting them up long-term for failure. All right. I'm not saying there isn't an intensity that has to be there. I am not saying you should not be competitive. You must be both of those things, but there's a way to do it in a way that's not going to emotionally, hurt your kid or yourself for that matter. So, again, those are my closing remarks. Again, guys, anything else before I go into our close? I want to make sure
Well said.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
When Christie says that to me, I actually feel like I did something. So that's always good. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure you listen to all the episodes we've ever done, ourkidsplayhockey.com, or email us if you have any questions, concerns, or if you disagree, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. We love sharing those emails on the show. So for Christie Casciano Burns and Mike Bonelli, I'm Lee Elias. We will see you on the next edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Skate on, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.